on, Yankee fans? Welcome back to Fireside Yankees with your boys, Alex and Ryan. Today we are discussing the three top leadoff options for the Yankees in 2023. Now, I know all of you guys probably, first thought came to mind, DJ LeMahieu. That's our first thought too. We're going to discuss him. We're going to discuss his numbers, what he does in the leadoff role. But because of the toe injury, because he missed pretty sizable chunk of time in 2022, we have to have alternative options. We have to have guys who can step in and fill that role if he's forced to miss any time. Of course, we were hoping Andrew Benintendi would be in the mix and he'd be an option, obviously be the starting left fielder, and he could be a very high-end leadoff guy, gets on base like a 36-37% clip. Would have helped Judge significantly, because theoretically you want Judge to be behind someone that gets on base a lot, so you can turn solo homers into two-run homers. So I think that entire aspect is definitely prevalent in the Yankees' line of thinking. But right now we have one primary leadoff guy, one guy that gets on base a lot, and that is DJ LeMahieu, who gets on base 35-36% of the time in his career. So, we'll talk about him first, Ryan. Before we do so, how you do today, my friend?
I'm doing great. The way I look at this Yankee lineup is, as you mentioned, LeMahieu is that primary leadoff guy. I think he's the team's top. I think he's going to be the team's leadoff hitter on opening day if I had to be a betting man. And I think the Yankees have shown that they love having LeMahieu at the leadoff spot. Even if you look at 2021 where he struggled, the Yankees were very persistent about having him lead off. They feel very strongly about the skills he brings to the plate. And quite frankly, I have no reason to feel any other way. It's not like the data points to him being someone who can't work walks or him being an aggressive hitter that doesn't know how to lay off a pitch outside the zone. He's a perfectly a patient hitter, and that's something you need, as you mentioned, behind Judge to convert, a lot of those solo home runs into two-run home runs. And also because that's someone that pitchers are going to try to pitch to, and LeMahieu doesn't whiff a lot. So LeMahieu's a great zone contact guy. That's going to lead to a lot of extra hits for LeMahieu or extra batted balls, and with more batted balls comes more hits. So ultimately, gets kind of just like the perfect match right there with LeMahieu and Judge, because again, you're going to be trying to avoid having to face Aaron Judge with a runner on. But if you're DJ LeMahieu, you want pitches in the zone because you can make a ton of contact and you're not really going to have issues swinging and missing.
Absolutely. So when you're looking at DJ LeMahieu's stats from last year as the leadoff hitter, he had 363 at-bats, 93 hits with 15 doubles, 9 homers, 38 RBIs, 56 walks, and 58 strikeouts. So a leadoff hitter that almost has a 1-for-1 ratio in strikeout to walk is a good thing. That's a very, very good thing. 358 on base percentage, 256 average. So you're looking at a player. He's not going to slug a ton, but you don't need him to. You want him to get on base 36-37% clip, and then give Aaron Judge that primary opportunity, that prime ripe opportunity to hit a home run and put an extra run on the board. That's the ideal scenario, right? So DJ LeMahieu, I think across the board, we can all agree, is the top leadoff option for this Yankee team. Now, looking at the second option, it's going to be Aaron Judge, and you don't want to have Aaron Judge hitting leadoff because you eliminate the variable, like I just mentioned, to hit multiple run home runs. You want to hit 2-3 run homers. You don't want to have him hitting solo shots all the time because you're not maximizing his value and his strong suit. But as a leadoff hitter, Judge is absolutely freaking electric, and he's also electric as the second hitter. He hit 366 with a 481 on base percentage as the leadoff man, including 13 homers and 25 RBIs with 29 walks and 123 at bats, which is incredible. So, the reason that he got walks so often last year, obviously, especially towards the end of the season, was because teams were not wanting to pitch to him. They didn't want to be on the wrong side of history, especially these pitchers that were like, we just don't want to be throwing him strikes because he will launch them if we give him an opportunity to do it. And Judge took advantage of that routinely. So they were like, you know what? Let's put him at first. If we bat him first, we can at least guarantee that he's going to get pitches to see. He's going to get pitches to hit. And with that being the case, he also has a tremendous eye. Putting him at leadoff, you're almost at a 50% clip. I mean, last year, 23 at bats, a decent sample size, almost walked at a 50% clip. That's ridiculous. You know what I mean? So like you're or at least got on base at a 50% clip, not walked, but he got on base at almost a 50% clip, which is obviously great if you have a second hitter like Rizzo who can pull those balls to right field and utilize that lefty power. But Judge is the de facto option. He's so good you can put him anywhere at the top of the order. As the leadoff man, great athlete, great guy getting on base, great slugger. I mean, he's a one-size-fits-all player, but obviously that's not his preferred destination. It's not his preferred position, Ryan. When you're looking at Judge, I imagine, you also agree, would be a fantastic leadoff hitter, but you don't really want him in that role.
Yeah, no, Aaron Judge is a remarkable leadoff hitter, right? I mean, there's no debate about it. Aaron Judge, I mean, the Yankees, I'm pretty sure, scored more runs when they had Judge leading off, but I think that has a lot to do with the fact that Judge was going on an insane pace at that time, and Judge was, I mean, he was torrid. The Yankees started leading him off because they wanted to help him chase that 62, and, well, he took that role and he ran with it. Guy stopped pitching to Judge towards the end, and he was working walks left and right. I remember that streak where he couldn't hit home runs. He had like a 500 OBP because like pitchers just didn't pitch to him. As you mentioned, the great plate discipline. He doesn't press at the plate. He's really just a phenomenal all around hitter. But I do prefer him in the 2 hole. Right? You can make the argument that you could lead off Aaron Judge if there was someone even remarkably close to an equal to Aaron Judge in that lineup. But that is like maybe like 2 or 3 guys who you could argue are like equals to Aaron Judge offensively. You're like Yordan Alvarez, Mike Trout, maybe Juan Soto, right? Those type of guys, right? And those guys typically don't play on the same lineup together. So it's one of those situations where Judge could obviously lead off, and that Aaron Judge playing center field and leading off. People, I know A-Rod mentioned, it's like gimmicky baseball. The Yankees are trying to do too much, but no, it was just that the Yankees had injuries and they kind of had to do it. But it worked for them when they did it. I still think Judge be the second guy. I think if you a perfect world is LeMahieu's leading off and Judge is hitting second. But both guys are good leadoff options. I think, as we mentioned though, Judge is more of the home run threat, so you want him to come up with runners on more often than not.
Yeah, that's the ideal scenario in my opinion. Obviously we all kind of agree with that. Now, the number 3 for me, Ryan and I have different options here. So my third option would be Gleyber Torres. Interestingly, he's a much better hitter at the top of the order than he is toward the bottom of the order. You're looking at him batting 5th, 6th. He was decent batting 5th, hit 252 with a 315 OBP, 442 slugging. Hit 7 homers, 18 RBIs, 14 walks, and 35 strikeouts. Batting 6th, he hit 167 with a 234 OBP. Like, he's not a really great bottom of the order player. He's actually a lot better towards the top of the order. Interestingly, 105 at bats, which is pretty much in line with the other sample sizes he had at batting 6th and 5th. But at third, when he was batting third, over 105 at bats, he had 8 homers, 31 RBIs, 13 walks, 24 strikeouts. He hit 343 with a 412 OBP. So he got on base at a 41.2% clip, which is really good. Really good. I don't know what it is about him hitting third, but being smacked in between Aaron Judge and Giancarlo Stanton certainly gave him a little bit of purpose, certainly gave him a little bit of confidence and motivation to get on base and help his team in a big moment. I think that Gleyber Torres has all the talent in the world. It's all mental for him. You know what I mean? When he's feeling hot, the guy is electric. The guy hits. He's consistent. He makes flashy plays. He's very, very, very good. When he's not feeling good, when he's on a cold streak, the guy couldn't hit the broadside of a barn. You know what I mean? The guy can't hit at all. So when you're looking at Gleyber Torres specifically, I feel as though the more confidence he has, the better spot he's in, the more people are relying on him. We need this from you. You're in between 2 elite level hitters. You got to come up. He elevates his game. And you're seeing that the numbers show he's a better third guy than he is anywhere else. And maybe they're looking to move him up the order a little bit. Like when we're talking about leadoff hitters right now, but giving a couple more reps there might be an interesting scenario if they had no choice. Given he's our third option in this entire equation right now, but batting third's an interesting thing if the Yankees do end up having to move the lineup around a little bit. I wouldn't be surprised to see Judge go up to lead off, and then you have Rizzo second and Gleyber third and Stanton fourth if DJ LeMahieu is forced to miss any time. That's an interesting one for me. But I know you have another player in mind. I'd also like to throw out, a lot of people have mentioned the aspect of Harrison Bader leading off. I love his athleticism, but he does not get on base that much. Your leadoff man should get on base at 35% or more, in my personal opinion. Bader's only going to get on base at 31%, 32% max, most likely. I don't think he's the guy for hitting leadoff. I think he's a guy that you want in like the 7-8 role. Like, you have some contact hitters coming up. He can turn, if he's on second base, let's say he hits a single, steals second base, he can turn a single into a run. That's what he can do. So if you have him batting maybe 7th and in an 8th spot, you have Peraza, who hits a lot of singles or whatnot. You might be able to drive in a run that way. I just don't think Harrison Bader is a great leadoff man because of his on-base percentage.
Yeah, 100% agree there. Harrison Bader, I think, works more in that 6, 7, 8 spot where, he's not going to be asked to, have patient at bats. Bader is someone who I think his power gets under discussed. He's more of a power guy than he is an on base guy, which is definitely not typical from, the issue is more so everyone thinks of the typical center fielder as like speed first, high batting average, high on base percentage, low strikeout percentage, not a ton of power, and baseball's changed. So Bader's definitely not the type of guy you lead off. They tried in the postseason, but that was more so because he got red hot and you were just trying to figure out what you could do. But in the regular season, I don't think Bader's going to get or should get many opportunities to lead off. But for my guy, as my third option, it's Anthony Rizzo. Right now, Anthony Rizzo is someone who's always going to walk a lot. He's never going to have a high strikeout percentage. Next year, he should see some positive regression in his batting average, right? His BABIP. I know that his BABIP was low because he had a lot of fly balls. Fly balls result in low BABIPs. That's just how it is, right? Those are the lowest batting average on ball in play for all three batted ball outcomes. And the reason for that is because you're trying to prioritize slug over average, and that's fine for a guy like Rizzo, where he can hit 32 home runs and put up a 130 WRC plus. But without the shift next year, I think that number is going to be more of like 240 or 250, right? Which should give his on base percentage at 350, maybe even 360 mark, right? Maybe the power goes down a little bit just from, he's a year older, right? Maybe the back issues got him a little bit more. And instead of 32 home runs in 130 games, it's more like 30 home runs or 20 or 28 home runs in 140 games. I think that on base and batting average increase is going to balance that out. I think he'll roughly be the same hitter he was last season, but he is someone who you can lead off and put at the top of the lineup. And I believe the Yankees did lead him off for a couple games during the season last year. He's a good left-handed hitter. We'll have him in front of, as you mentioned, that situation where you have Rizzo first, Judge second. You can put Glaber third, Stanton fourth, right? That would be perfectly fine for the Yankees. I'd imagine the Yankees would like to get a left-handed hitter involved in left field. I know they like Cabrera, but I do still think the Yankees want to get a left-handed left fielder just because you want to have as many left-handed options in your lineup as possible that provide value at the plate. Ultimately, Rizzo's just a really good hitter, right? And he's that, he's just like, Rizzo doesn't do anything that you would say is like, he does it at an elite clip, but he does a lot of things really well. And that allows him to be quietly one of the best, safest bats in the Yankee lineup. Like even in the postseason, he quietly had a really good postseason. You really didn't have to worry about Anthony Rizzo not showing up, right? So I feel like Anthony Rizzo is one of those guys where he's dependable, he's safe. You can put him at the leadoff spot, you can put him at the 3 spot, you can put him at the 5 spot even. Like let's say the Yankees somehow traded for a Brian Reynolds, or I saw Luis Ariz may be available, it might be on the move, right? You could put a Reynolds third or Ariz third or first, and you can even hit Rizzo fifth if you have to, right? Rizzo's very versatile in that lineup. I think he provides a lot of things the Yankees needed, and ultimately, I'm very excited to see how he could do, in a leadoff role if it comes down to it.
Absolutely. I mean, Rizzo is another guy that gets a lot of walks, very patient hitter. I think that he fits a pretty solid mold. I wish he was a little bit more athletic and maybe a little bit faster to maybe extrapolate on some of the doubles that maybe Judge would say. Because if Judge hits a double, Rizzo's not scoring from first base. He's sitting at third and he's waiting. But if you got a guy like Cabrera, you got a guy like maybe Peraza, he's probably going to score from first base on a double. You know what I mean? I think best case scenario, if you don't have DJ LeMahieu, Cabrera or Peraza step up their game and manage, even if they're at like the thing is like asking them to get out on base at a 34% clip is a lot. You know what I mean? Like I don't think that's realistic for Cabrera or Peraza, but if they manage to get close to that, I would have no problem hitting them lead off, either of those two guys. I like having athletes lead off. I don't like having slow guys batting lead off because, they get on base and they're able to steal a base and then suddenly a single turns into a run. You know what I mean? Like that's a difference maker. So I'll ask you this, Ryan, before we dive into one kind of honorary mention here. When you're looking at the youngsters on this team, what is the possibility that one of those guys raises to the occasion and offers this team maybe a potential leadoff hitter for the future, like Peraza or Cabrera?
I think the issue with Peraza and Cabrera are just like they don't have in terms of plate discipline. Peraza doesn't have a high chase rate. Like that's something he's consistently he's kept under control in AAA. But I just don't know if he's never really posted high walk rates. It's interesting because he doesn't chase and he doesn't post high walk rates. It's like a weird mix. It's like the anti Rizzo. Rizzo actually has a pretty decently high chase rate, but doesn't. Like he walks a lot. These are very weird hitters. It's like a very weird profile. Those things usually correlate. So I'm a little confused as to why Peraza doesn't walk more. It probably has to do with something in like individual counts. He's probably a lot more aggressive early in counts. Therefore, he kind of forces the action a little bit and probably forces the ball in play a lot earlier in a count. We saw Peraza work a lot of walks at the major league level. Maybe it's just a weird quirk in AAA, and maybe he sorts that out at the major league level, and you're looking at like a 9 to 10% walk percentage guy. But he's such a fly ball heavy hitter that kind of like Rizzo, he's not really going to hit for that high average, and more so than Rizzo, he's probably going to see his average tank a little bit. I think he's going to hit more like 240, 250, and I think Peraza is probably going to be a league average hitter. It's weird because I mean, I feel like you have to look at him as like someone who could walk a little bit more at the major league level, but I'm not sure that I buy into him being a leadoff hitter. Not just yet. Maybe in year 2, maybe in year 3 he can get reps there, but not in year 1. For Cabrera, it's kind of the same situation, except he's a lot more aggressive than Peraza is. He swings a lot. He loves to swing. So I'm not sure that really works in the leadoff spot. I think that works more in like that. Maybe you hit him like 5th every now and then, or hit him 6th. But I don't know if he's got the profile to lead off either. Even though both those guys are remarkable athletes, it's just not their skill set, and that's fine, right? Like I think I kind of like that they're like that. I don't want Cabrera to feel like he has to be a patient hitter. I don't think that would fit his skill set. As for Peraza, I genuinely just have to see if that chase rate translates to walks like it did last year over that small sample size. Because once we get to like 200, 300 major league plate appearances, if that walk percentage is 10%, you can kind of assume that that's what's going to be for a very long time, right? We're entering that territory where it stabilizes. So next year is going to be interesting because I guess we'll get the answer to that question by like June. So quite frankly, I can't say for certain with Peraza. I think the upside is there for him to lead off because of the chase rates, but Cabrera is someone that I definitely don't think is ever going to have the skill set for that role. But maybe I could be wrong. I'd love to be wrong about that.
Yeah, I mean, look, the last player I want to talk about is another youngster, another guy we haven't even seen yet. So we're talking here about Anthony Volpe. Is he going to be able to translate to the MLB and help this team as potentially a leadoff man? A lot of people think that he might be able to do that. So, Ryan, when we're looking at Anthony Volpe, a really, really good hitter, patient, he's got a good eye, he makes really great contact, he can spray the ball all over the field, every single corner he's got it covered. He can slap it to right, he can pull it to left, he can hit it dead center. He's got really good power. This is the reason why the Yankees are so high on the guy in the first place, aside from his defense. But Volpe is an intriguing player here. Do I think that he translates immediately to the MLB level? Personally, I think it's going to take him about a month to get used to it. I think he's going to struggle at first. I think he's going to get progressively better with every single at bat. But I think by the end of that month, by the end of that sample size, we're looking at a player that can help this team. Okay, we cannot afford to call this guy up in September or late August and hope that he makes an impact with 10 games of sample size. The Yankees cannot shoot themselves in the foot by hoping that Volpe is going to come up and just help this team immediately. They need to give him more opportunity. They're already committed to calling up for spring training and letting him compete for the starting shortstop job. There is no reason that they should hold him back later on in the season and not allow him to get proper reps, proper opportunities, and not able to extrapolate on his skill set and develop. He's a player, if you look at his stats, if you look at his numbers month by month at every single level, he starts out very slow, and then he gets progressively better and better and better and better until he's absolutely kicking serious ass, and then they call him up to the next level. They cannot allow him to just play 10 games and that's it during the 2023 season. They need to be more consistent with him. They need to give him opportunity. They got to call him up in like June or July, not August, September. They got to call him up before the trade deadline because, Ryan, what we know the most is that if they call up Volpe before the trade deadline, we'll know what he is. We'll know what he can offer, because if we don't know what he can offer before the trade deadline, how the hell are you supposed to make a decision on maybe trading a guy like Gleyber Torres or bringing in a new infielder if we have a problem, if someone gets injured or what happens? There's so many different variables that could play a part here. But knowing what Volpe is before the trade deadline, how he's progressing, is an essential variable that will determine what the Yankees do at the trade deadline and in the future.
Yeah, Anthony Volpe, like, if he comes up in September, it's going to be a Peraza situation again, where the guy, you can't really expect him to start in the postseason, right? If he comes up in September, that probably also tells you Peraza was maybe playing well enough to play shortstop full time. You didn't have issues with Gleyber. You probably figured out third base somehow, whether it's Donaldson bouncing back or LeMahieu playing the way LeMahieu has last year. And you're obviously, like, first base, Volpe's not factoring into the first base equation unless something unforeseen happens to Rizzo and you have to slide LeMahieu to first base. But even then, you'd probably just start Donaldson at third. So ultimately, if Volpe comes up in September, that tells you he's not a factor for the postseason, right? And it's one of those things where it just can't be like that. Like you mentioned, Volpe would have to really, really suck for the Yankees to have to do something like that, right? They can't. Last year was a disaster for handling rookies, right? You can't do that. You can never again do I want to see this organization handle rookies the way they did last year. Never again do I want to see this team rely on veterans that aren't that clearly are worse than their rookie counterparts, right? The Yankees put themselves in that position, right? I'm not saying Cabrera, should have came up earlier because Cabrera had an injury. Like there was a serious shoulder injury and that caused him to struggle. Peraza struggled early on, but there was a 2 or 3 week stretch where the Yankees should have called up Peraza and they didn't. And then when they did, they didn't start him, right? You don't call up Peraza if you're not going to start him, right? That was a massive issue that this team had. Anthony Volpe can absolutely be a factor at the leadoff spot if he comes up in time to figure out what he is, because as you mentioned, when he settles into a role and you give him time to settle into a role, he really turns it on. And even if he's like a 100 WRC plus hitter by the end of the year, if that progression is linear, if that first month was bad and the last 2 months were really good, you're gonna put him in that lineup, right? He's got great walk rates, he's got really low chase rates, he doesn't swing and miss a lot, he's got really good home run power, even though the raw power isn't necessarily there. The speed is great. He's someone that if you put at the lead, if he figures it out, maybe it's not 2023, maybe it's 2024 when you feel comfortable doing this, but Anthony Volpe is the leadoff hitter for this team, over the next half decade, in my opinion, right? I think he's the future of the Yankees at the leadoff spot. As you mentioned, you don't really like to have guys who are really slow at the leadoff spot because, what can you really do on the base running game, right? You prefer that the guy's fast, and Volpe gives the Yankees everything they've been looking for in that regard, and I would really love to see the Yankees give him a shot early on so that we can see him flourish in his role, his plate discipline kind of stabilizes, and we can eventually move him up to that leadoff role. And also, if you think about it, if you hit LeMahieu 5th or 6th in the lineup, right, that means that when guys like once you have Judge, Rizzo, Stanton, Glaber pass by, one of those guys are probably going to be on base. And if they're in scoring position, you have LeMahieu up. LeMahieu's a great contact guy, a great bat-to-ball guy, a great, phenomenal guy to have up in a postseason series with runners in scoring position. That's who you want, right? Because he's going to put the ball in play. Something's going to happen, right? He's going to force the ball in play. There's going to be movement on the base paths, right? And that's something that you'd like to see from this lineup. It's a huge upgrade over having Donaldson there, right? And I don't want to harp on Donaldson too much because, we talk about him a lot. But ultimately, right, it was the strikeouts in that postseason series against, the Astros that really killed the Yankees. If you look at Donaldson's at-bats, Justin Verlander, that at-bat shouldn't have been that at-bat, right? I think home runs matter more than strikeouts, but those at-bats should have been, those were really bad at bats, and they bailed Justin Verlander out. He ended up going on to dominate that game, and the Yankees could have potentially stolen game one. It was close. The Yankees threw in Schmidt and Montas because basically they felt as if they weren't in the lead anymore. They didn't feel like they were comfortable throwing in any of their top guys, right? So, quite frankly, this team needs to have guys like LeMahieu instead of Donaldson in those middle of the lineup spots. I'm praying that Donaldson bounces back because ultimately, it feels like the Yankees are going to find a trade suitor for him, and it's good to have infield depth. But this team needs to give Volpe a chance because, as you mentioned, speed, on base, low chase rates, patient hitter, right? That's the type of guy you want to have leading off, and Volpe can be that guy come October.
He absolutely can be that guy, and I hope to God he is, because we need another option that's not DJ LeMahieu to be able to fill that role, because I don't want to move Judge up to the leadoff spot. I don't want to move Glaber. Like, these are last resorts. These are secondary options. We need another guy. Benintendi was supposed to be him, but now we do not have him. But guys, I'd love to hear your perspectives on this matter. This is an interesting conversation. There's a lot to kind of go through, and we'll see how the Yankees approach this as the months continue on. And we get closer to spring training here, but always happy to hear your opinions below in the YouTube comments. As always, make sure you have a fantastic rest of your day. Like, subscribe for daily content on all platforms. Make sure to follow us on Fireside Yankees on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. We got you guys covered from every single topic. We're going to be doing some fun things this year, so hopefully you guys stick around. But as I said, like, subscribe, and we'll catch you guys on the next Fireside Yankees episode.